All right. So we just had a momentary interruption, but we were talking about the people in Picture Butte and the Happy Old Timers Club.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you do with the Happy Old Timers?
Well, I just sell the tickets for them, but they have pancake supper on second Tuesday of the month. The meeting on the first Thursday of the month. A soup and sandwich. On
Second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday of the month.
Birthday.
Then the birthday party, the third week of the month.
Thursday.
Yeah, on a Thursday. We're an active club.
Mm-hmm.
They have lots of trips.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go on their trips anymore. I have to stop for the bathroom too much.
Oh, goodness. So, where did your husband work when he...
For the Lethbridge Northern.
Okay.
Well, for 30 years.
And did he enjoy that?
At times.
Yeah.
Yeah. He likes Iron Springs, the people there. He was ditch riding then. After we got transferred from the reserve, he wasn't in charge of the gates, he was ditch riding. And then there was trouble on some ditches at Park Lake, so then he had to take a transfer. That was the worst thing we ever did. Moved to Park Lake.
Yeah. What didn't you like about it?
I didn't like anything about Park Lake.
Yeah. Were there a lot of people there?
Oh yeah, there was 5 houses and a trailer. Yeah.
And you didn't get along well with the people?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We all got along, but just didn't like it there. After you leave a place like Iron Springs that you like so well and everybody, and then move to a place you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And we were alone then, the kids were all gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it made a difference.
Mm-hmm. And so what did your children say about all of the different schools that they went to?
They didn't mind. They liked the high school here.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And they loved Iron Springs, of course, thanks to Jim Asplund.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Didn't you teach at Iron Springs? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And so, did you ever have any regrets in your life, like going to school maybe, or doing things like
For
that?
me,
Yeah.
my life?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think so. I went to school. We had a long way to go to school. We had at least 4 miles. We went to a Catholic school. And from when I was 4 till I was 13.
And so, if you had any advice that you could give to the younger generation in Picture Butte, what would it be? Having lived everything that you've lived.
I think the younger generation are doing just fine.
Yeah.
I think there's just 1 or 2 bad apples that make it bad for the rest. But I think they're good here, eh? There isn't too much crime or just the odd, some young person showing off or get into a bottle. Or, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the younger generation are really lucky.
Mm-hmm. How so? What makes it?
I don't think they work like we had to. I don't think they had more money than we ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if they go to school and graduate, I think they do very well.
So, what was your best memory about coming to Canada?
My best memories, I think, would be when we adopted our children. Yeah. We're so blessed. Yeah. That's my best. And my worst would be lots. I think my worst, I don't know. Losing my husband was hard because then I was alone.
But you keep in touch with your sister?
Oh yeah.
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 Do you ever talk about growing up in England?
All the time.
Yeah.
In fact, she's got dementia, so she's way back in. When I was visiting her here a couple of weeks ago, she said, remember when we did this and we did that? And some I remember and some I don't. And I just go along with her. Yeah, well, that's good, eh? That was really good. Yeah. Yeah. So
how many children did she have, her and her husband?
she had two, but one died. Maggie died. And they adopted Bill and Peggy Ann and Jim. They adopted 3.
David?
David is theirs. David was their son. And Margaret, with the little girl, died. Yeah. And then Jim was a foster child. He's not adopted, he's a foster child that never went back. And Bill and Peggy Ann were adopted.
And so it's very unusual from what I've seen for people to adopt and foster. What makes you feel like that's, like, what do you love about fostering, or what did you love about fostering and adopting children?
Because you gave somebody a home that would have been in an orphanage.
And did you tell her how many you had?
No, I don't want to.
I think you should.
No, we had lots.
Lots of children.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell her.
No, I promised Bus I would.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's completely fine.
See, Scott was foster child. Some that we adopted were foster children. And he was classed as too old for adoption at 7 months.
Really?
Them days.
Wow. So you had a lot of infants. You took in a lot of infants.
Yeah. And not just all foster children, they were friends, the kids that come and stayed. And like Audrey's kids stayed and Joan's kids stayed. And, you know, we always, when we lived on the reserve, there was always piles of people there. So, in fact, I used to hate Sundays.
Really? Why is that?
Because the house would be full and I'd be cooking all day. Because the kids all had horses and they'd invite their friends to ride. Yeah.
That's great. So,
I'm probably the dullest one you've ever interviewed.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm very fascinated.
Oh.
You have lots of great stories. So, what did you do with the children when they came in? Like, did you have activities that you would do?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Always, especially on the reserve, because we would be snowed in. We didn't play many games because we had one son that was such a poor sport. So we got him doing embroidery work. And to this day, my boys really could do beautiful embroidery work. And the girls all learned to knit. They were both left-handed, but they stood behind me and I was facing the mirror. and they learned to knit from me, doing it through the mirror.
Really? That's very unique.
And the one in turn is a beautiful knitter that doesn't pick up needles anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
They were both left-handed, the girls. Yeah.
And so why do you think that it was very unusual for infants over 7 months to get adopted?
Because there were so many them days. There was a lot of children. They used to phone. 9 months after the Calgary Stampede, you'd know you'd get a phone call. And there used to be, you remember the Banff Winter Carnival? That was another bad one too.
Yeah.
And then they hated to break up families. That's how come we would always wind up with more than we expected. Because they would phone you to take one, and then they phone you back and say, well, that one's got a little brother and they don't want to be separated. So what do you say? Bring them. Oh, yeah.
That's great. And so your sister's son, did he get along well with his adopted siblings?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All of their kids. In fact, once a month now, my sister's family and my family that's all around, we meet for lunch once a month. Yeah.
Wonderful. Here, or do you go somewhere?
To Lethbridge.
Lethbridge.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Seems like Tony Roma's the most popular. Yeah. I picked Joey's when it was my birthday, and it was good. But my sister's going to be 90 this year, so we got a big celebration coming up if she can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when did she develop dementia, if you don't mind saying?
Just lately.
Just lately.
She was in a car accident. Oh, I think it's Peggy Ann's in her 50s. And Peggy Ann was in grade 5 in Iron Springs. Yeah, when I had her family.
Was it quite a bad car accident?
Yes, very bad.
Yeah.
She's been crippled all her life.
Really?
He lost his leg, and yeah, it was a terrible life. She was in the hospital a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Marge had her children.
Huh?
You had her children.
Yeah.
You took them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did the children adjust to living with you?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We've always been. Yeah. Yeah. They call me Maggie. Yeah. Yeah, we've always been close. Not that we don't have our arguments. You know, every once in a while something could come up and, are you kidding, we'll say, you know. Us old people know better. But, you know,
Yeah. And so how did your sister adjust to coming back home after the hospital?
oh, it took her a long time.
Yeah.
Took her a long time.
Yeah.
To, yeah, she was really banged up. She's had, I think it's 8 hip operations.
Oh my goodness.
She has no ball in the hip now. She has a big boot on now. And she's in a wheelchair, has been for years. Yeah. Yeah, it was a bad accident. It was on the Monarch Hill. Guy coming from McLeod. They hit black ice at the same time.
And so how old was she at that time?
Oh gosh, she was young.
Well, Peggy Ann was 10.
Yeah.
So how old would she be?
So she would have been in her 30s, I'd say 40s. Yeah. Because she's going to be 90 in July. Yeah, her years in Canada were hard ones.
So she was homesick maybe a little bit more so than you were. would you say?
No, we were both homesick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you said her husband lost his legs.
Yeah. In the accident.
And how did he recover after that? Like,
He was good. He
Yeah.
went back to work after. He got a artificial leg and he was good. He even danced.
Really?
Yeah.
So it didn't hold him back any.
No,
No.
he was good.
That's great.
But he drank too much. That was his downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, you showed me already some of your photos, but would you like to show? We'll just see if you can hold them up and maybe talk a little bit about them. And so that's the house that you grew up in?
This is the house that I grew up in. This second one. Right here. I was born in this house and I left it to come to Canada.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We can maybe just move it just a little bit more. There we go. I think that works out good. And so what can you tell me about some of your memories of that house?
Oh, this was a good house.
Yeah.
The people that bought this house, when my sister and I went back to England and we went to the house, we wanted to go home to where we were born. So we went there and the lady said, "There's one thing I can tell you with this house, there was lots of love in it." She said when they brought it, it had such a warm feeling. So,
And that's the house that you lived in during the war years as well?
yeah.
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 Wow.
And we had a shelter inside one of the bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big steel shelter that we got in at night when the bombing was bad. But we only went there when the bombing was bad because we had to sit up in the thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And this is the church that we went to all our lives as children.
And so what church is that?
St. Mary's of the Angels. It's a Catholic church. And we went to the school of St. Mary's. And it was just a little ways from the church.
What can you tell me about how did it look like? Or what did it look like?
The church?
Yeah.
Beautiful. You'd have to go inside. There were 3 altars in there.
Really?
It was big. I think my dad run me down the aisle. I think he wanted to get rid of me because we sure went fast down that aisle. And when I got to the aisle, all the Canadians had stopped at the pubs. And there was 46 pubs from my house to the church. And I don't think any of them were standing straight.
So everyone at your wedding was plastered?
Well, the men before the
Yeah.
wedding.
Did you have a few drinks as well?
No,
No.
we didn't have them till after.
Yeah, fair enough.
These guys all stopped at the pub. Bus's cousin had come out from, he was a prisoner of war in Germany, and they found out that day before my wedding that he was in England, so they went to get him. And he was best man. He wasn't supposed to be, but he was. And when he left to go back to Aldershot, there was 27 girls walked him to the train
Oh my
and
goodness.
put him on the train for Aldershot.
Wow.
He always said it was the biggest thrill of his life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is the picture that my sister sent from England this year. And it's the White Cliffs of Dover, just apart.
And so do you remember the White Cliffs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember the White Cliffs, but I never saw them like this. I wish she'd have got a little better picture because they are nicer than this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell her to go back and grab another photo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you mind if we share these photos?
No, that's fine.
Okay, because these are such beautiful photos. And so which one would you prefer to show first?
No matter.
No? Okay. I'll give you those.
Oh, this one, because that was their engagement.
Okay. And so what can you tell us about that photo?
This was the engagement of my sister to my brother-in-law. It was they were married in 43, so it must have been before that.
Mm-hmm. And so
But he stayed in England because he was in the Air Force. And my husband went overseas because he was in the Army.
And so who all is in the photo?
There's Peggy and Calvin. That's Peggy. That's Calvin. Well, that's me. And that's Bus. That's my husband.
Yeah. And so you all moved to Raymond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to get engaged to me.
Really?
And I said no. So he bought her engagement ring for her husband.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
And this was my wedding picture. This was taken out. So you come in apart here.
Yeah, I can put that back if you'd like.
Come in apart.
Let's see if I can. Oh goodness, we're having some issues.
Yeah, just lay it down.
And the camera fell.
Oh.
Everything's falling apart. Jeez.
Well, it's in the right place.
Yes. All right. There we go. Now we've got it. And so what can you tell me about that photo?
This was my wedding picture. It was taken on June the 16th, 1945. He had just come back from Europe. He'd been to Sicily and Italy, Germany, Belgium, Holland and France. And he came back and he came on the Friday and we got married on a Saturday. In England during the war, you didn't need bands read. You could have special permission.
Really?
Because the boys weren't around. So.
And so who all is in that photo?
That's my sister Peggy. That's Bob that came back from the German prisoner of war camp. That's my cousin Betty. That's my husband. That's me. And these are my cousins Molly and Phyllis. Molly is in Australia.
Wow. And do you keep in touch with all of these women?
No.
No.
Betty died. And just Peg. And Bob died.
Wow. You've had quite the life.
Well, it was a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It had its moments.
Mm-hmm. Those are great. Thank you.
I've been a very fortunate war bride.
Yeah.
I never had a husband that hit me, And let's face it, we were strangers. We only met 2 or 3 times and then married. So.
Were there a lot of war brides that had rough experiences?
Yes, there was a lot of war brides that went back to England.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And some that went to Saskatchewan found it very cold. A lot went back from there. Yeah.
And did you ever keep in touch with any of them?
No.
No.
Just the ones that I knew here. Yeah. There was quite a few. There was, us had a cousin that married a war bride. She come to Orion. She wouldn't get out the car. They finally got her out, but then they moved to Tabor. And there was Eileen Woods. There was a lot from their hometown that came, but they've all passed away now.
Yeah.
Because we're all in their late 80s and 90s. We're like the veterans. Yeah.
And so, on Remembrance Day, do you find that it brings up a lot of issues for you?
Remembrance Day is the hardest day of my whole life. I have a hard time. We go to the cemetery. We like our privacy, and we do a 2-minute silence. And it's packed. It's packed with people that don't want to go to the service, you know. And we take our puppies and put on the grave. He's buried in the field of honor, and I'll be buried with him. So, yeah.
That's great. And so if you had anything that you could say to your children, your many, many children, what would it be?
Thank you for the years you gave me.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Marge. I think that we got it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think we got it. Is there anything else that you wanted to?
No, I just want to thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, well, we'll stop the recording now at about 12 o'clock.